And thanks for joining us today. I'm Dom Carlo, one of the organisers of the LJC, stepping in for Barry this afternoon. So we're here today for a talk with Alex Theedom, which will be on Boost Your Java Career with Mule Integration. So Alex is a principal technical instructor for MuleSoft and a Java champion, a Java developer and trainer with over 10 years experience developing Java EE and Spring Framework applications. He also provides Java training via LinkedIn Learning and is the author of Java EE 8, Owning What's New, and the co-author of Professional Java EE Design Patterns. So as you can see, Alex is ready to go with his slides, so I'll leave him to get started.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dom, and thank you for the plug of my book. That's much appreciated. Okay, so today I'm going to speak to you about how to boost your Java career with Mule integration. Okay, so let's get started. Let's dive straight in. So the agenda for today is, what are the benefits of attending this meetup? I'm going to let you know exactly what you're going to get from being here today. Then I'm going to introduce MuleSoft, so you know a little bit about what MuleSoft is all about. Then I'm going to do a demo. I'm going to dive straight in and I'm going to do a full development life cycle demo, and I'm going to do that in 10 minutes. Okay, I'm going to go from zero with absolutely nothing all the way through to design, develop and deploy a Mule application. Then I'm going to talk about how to build connectors. I'm going to tell you what a connector is and then tell you how you can build connectors in Java. And then I'm going to talk about how you can actually scale up with Mule with some free training and certification. And then at the end, I'm going to answer all of your questions. So during the presentation, please feel free to ask questions in the chat window. I will get to those towards the end. Okay, so what is in it for you to be here today? Well, first of all, thank you very much for giving up your lunch hour to come and listen to me talk to you about MuleSoft integration. Well, what you're going to get here is you're going to learn about the acquisition of a new skill, how to power up your career by adding Mule integration to your tool belt. I'm going to talk to you about how the skills that you currently have as Java developers, as Java professionals, how you can leverage those skills to really give yourself a boost in this brave new world of digital transformation, which is what MuleSoft is all about. And of course, towards the end, I will let you know how you can get your hands on some free training and certifications to get you qualified as a MuleSoft professional. So let's get started by talking a little bit about what's happening right now. We're in the midst of unprecedented times. And of course, not just talking about the pandemic, I'm talking about the way in which businesses are changing and the way in which businesses are transforming. A recent Salesforce survey found that 69% of respondents believe that work for them has changed. And this is not just office workers. These are developers too. For them, the way they have worked, they has changed. And this is not just because of what's happening right now, the way in which businesses are transforming digitally, but also because this is necessary. As developers, we are in a continuously changing world. It's changing faster and faster. And we have the responsibility as developers to stay up to date and acquire new skills that keep us employable and provide value to the market and, of course, value to our employers. And today, this is what we're going to be looking at, is how to skill up on Mule integration so that you can really give yourself greater opportunities in the marketplace. So before that, let's just talk a little bit about MuleSoft and what is MuleSoft integration all about? What does MuleSoft do in the first place? Well, MuleSoft is an innovative integration leader. That has the overall mission of helping organizations to change and innovate faster by making it easier for them to connect the world together. So when we're talking about here worlds, applications, data, and devices, we're talking about data within our organization. We're talking about integration, but in a way that is unique. Okay. MuleSoft has an AnyPoint platform. This is the #1 solution for integration. It provides a unique platform that supports the entire life cycle of a Mule integration application. It provides a well-tested methodologies, playbooks, and approaches, and provides a robust integration platform and all the tools required for designing, developing, deploying, and managing the integration of systems. Okay, it's not just about routes and data mapping. It's an entire API lifecycle and iPaaS solution. So as developers, we actually share the same mission that MuleSoft has, which is to help our organizations change and to innovate, because that's what we want in this digital transformation that businesses are going through, not just because of the current pandemic, but because this is the way in which society is changing, the way in which everything is changing. Our organizations must change too, and we want them to change because we want them to survive and we want them to be successful. So our missions as developers, we share that mission with MuleSoft. So I've talked about Mule integration application. So what is a Mule integration application? Well, it's the building block of a Mule solution. Mule integration solutions are made from Mule applications. But what is a Mule application? Well, a Mule application is a Java application, typically a RESTful API, but not necessarily always, but typically it's a RESTful API. It does the work of integration with other Mule integration application. It provides a complete integration solution. It is developed, deployed into a runtime, which we call the Mule runtime, which is entirely written in Java. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? This Mule integration application, what is it really? It is a Java application. It's a RESTful API, which we deploy into an application network so it can collaborate with other APIs to provide recomposable network of integration applications that bends as the organization changes rather than breaking. Remember what I talked about in the previous screen about how organizations are changing, the environment in which we're changing. We have to make sure that the software solutions that we provide also are able to change as well. That is what Mule integration applications do. So let's dive a little deeper and talk about the environment in which Mule applications exist. Well, they're Java. They run on a Java runtime. They benefit from a Java ecosystem. So the runtime itself, it is based upon Java. It is based upon Spring. It incorporates Java E technologies. It embraces Hazelcast, Kotlin, and of course, is based entirely on the OpenJDK. It's built with familiar libraries. You're a Java developer, you know Apache Log4j. You're familiar with Java 8. You know about Hamcrest and Grizzly and FastXML. You know about JUnit and Jackson. All of these technologies are combined together to build out a Mule applications. And it benefits from being part of the Java ecosystem as well. So all Mule projects are Maven projects. They're built in an IDE that's based upon Eclipse. Their code is checked into code repositories like GitHub, which integrate with CI/CD pipelines that use Jenkins that then deploy onto Docker in a Kubernetes environment. And they are troubleshooted using Visual VM. All of these are the exciting technologies that we're all familiar with as Java developers. And your knowledge of these technologies, bringing together with your knowledge of Mule integration, really gives you a boost in the world of Mule integration. So let's have a look at how we actually build Mule applications. Well, we use an IDE, okay? We use Arypoint Studio, which is entirely based upon Eclipse and being highly customized and optimized for the development of Mule applications. It supports Eclipse plugins like eGit, for example, or M2E and web tools. All projects that are built, all Mule projects are Maven-based projects. They integrate directly from the IDE into your source code repository. And you have all of the features, Studio has all of the features that you would typically require as a developer to be productive. Maven, of course, unit testing are built directly into Arypoint Studio. It has autocomplete everywhere. Visual debugging allows you to visually view how your application executes and to track down bugs. It has an embedded runtime, so you can deploy your Mule application right there inside your Studio to test the first incarnation of your application. And it, of course, integrates with source code repository. And because it integrates with Maven, it then integrates with any kind of deployment pipeline you have set up. So let's stop talking. Let's actually have a look at a demo. So I'm going to demo to you how you can design, implement, and deploy a MuleSoft RESTful API. Okay, so I'm going to design the API. I'm going to give a minimum implementation of an API, RESTful API for a customer's endpoint. I'm then going to open up Studio. I'm going to implement that application. Then I'm going to deploy it into the cloud. And I'm going to aim to do that all within about 10 minutes. So first off, let's dive straight in, and I need to open up Anypoint Platform. Here is Anypoint Platform. You're able to create an Anypoint Platform account yourself. I've created it for a company, my fictitious company called Big Bank Limited. And I'm going to go straight in, and I'm going to dive straight into the Design Center. The Design Center provides me with an interface into which I can create an API specification. So I'm going to create the API specification called Customers API, and I can create this as, I can use RAML to define my API, or what I can do is I could also use OAS 2 and 3. Today, I'm just going to use RAML. So I'm going to create my API specification like so. And I'm going to be able to, here right in the browser, create my specification for my application. So I'm going to start off very simply by giving it a version, of course, version 1. I'm then going to jump straight in, and I'm going to create the customer's endpoint like so. Of course, the customer's endpoint, I'm just going to define the get endpoint. I'm going to define immediately the responses, and I'm going to only define, in this case, I'm just going to define the 200 response. The 200 response has a body, okay? And as you can see, I'm using autocomplete. As I go through this, this is a super quick and super productive tool that allows me to build out specifications really, really quickly. And of course, I'm now going to provide an example. So what I've done so far is I have defined my customer endpoint, which is going to be a get endpoint. I'm now defining my 200 response, which of course is a success response, and I need to provide it with an example. And I can bring in an example from my directory. I can load up a JSON file which represents what a customer looks like. There we go. I'm bringing in a JSON file that represents what my customer looks like. And then I can specify here very quickly, again, using autocomplete and even selecting down here from the shelf, we call this the shelf, the name of the file. So there we go. This is the minimum description of an endpoint. This is the get customers endpoint. Well, let's go and have a look and see what this endpoint looks like. I can go over here onto the right-hand side to what we call the API console. It's kind of a bit like an online version of Postman, for example. So I click on get, I click on try it, I click on send, because I'm sending to this endpoint here, the customer's endpoint. And what I'll get is this file here, the customers.json file, will be returned to me to give me a demonstration of what that response looks like. And we can have a look now. Well, what's the response for the customer? The customer has an ID, it has a full name, login name, location, date of birth, email, and some other details too. So what I'm doing here is this is the specification for my API. And now the developer has to build an implementation that returns this data structure from the database. But what I do, though, to make this happen is I publish this API into Exchange. Exchange is our central repository where you and your organization is able to publish all of the assets that they want to share among the organization. This is a really essential part of the Anypoint platform, is the ability to make APIs that have been created discoverable so they can be reused by other parts of the organization. So let's click in Exchange and we can see what this looks like. Well, it's a simple entry in Exchange that will have a description of how this API works. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to make this example very quick. But if I go back to my asset list, I can see here, this is my customers API. Now, typically in an organization, there'll be multiple APIs here that I can reuse in my project that provide information about accounts or marketing or all kinds of information that are useful for my company. So I'm going to now go back and I'm going to open up Anypoint Studio. Here is Anypoint Studio. So the design phase is finished. Now it's the development phase. I'm going to use Anypoint Studio to do so. And this should be quite familiar to you. This interface is a fairly standard interface for an integrated development environment. So I'm just going to click on create a new Mule project. I'm going to give my project a name. I'm going to call it customers API, like so. And I'm going to connect directly to Exchange and bring down that API specification, because that API specification is going to allow me to scaffold a significant part of my application. Okay, so this is again another productivity tool. I can bring down that customer's API, and Studio will pass through that customer's API, and it will be able to scaffold part of my application for me. And that's exactly what it's doing right now. It's creating my project. Okay, it's going to be a Maven-based project, and you'll recognize the structure of that project when I show you in a moment. It's passing through the API specification. Once it's passed through the API specification, it will actually scaffold the application itself and auto-generate flows into which I can actually provide my implementation. Okay, so it takes a few moments to do that because it's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So you'll see as it goes through the parsing, it will actually identify all of the different parts of that API, all of the endpoints of that API. So in my API, I only have one endpoint, which is the get / customers endpoint, and it will scaffold a flow into which I can implement my integration logic. So there we go, it's done that. So first of all, let's examine over here on the left-hand side the actual project structure, and this should be familiar to you. It has the source main Mule directory in which my Mule development takes place, and I have the source main Java directory in which my Java development takes place. This is a typical structure of a Maven project, and down here, as you can see at the bottom left, I have a pom.xml file which manages all of my dependencies. So I'm just going to collapse this screen into my 3 flows. My first flow is an entry point flow. This is where I enter into my application through this endpoint here. So my Mule application, when it's deployed, is going to be listening for requests coming in on the domain name for this application that applies to this application. And it'll be redirecting requests that come in to here, as you can see, the get / customers endpoint. Now here it's created a placeholder for me, which is a transform message component, which I'm just going to remove that. And in place of that, I'm going to connect to a MongoDB database. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to look for my Mongo connector to connect to my MongoDB database. Now I do not need to write any code whatsoever in order to connect to my MongoDB database. All I need to do with this connector is to provide it with the connectivity logic necessary in order to make that connection. So I'm just going to select the find documents. Okay. Then what I do is I go down here at the bottom of the screen and I'll be able to configure the connectivity. So I just click add. By adding a connector configuration, I select the appropriate options. And all I need to do is to provide it with the MongoDB driver. So I need to go and I can collect that directly from Maven Central. So I go a Mongo -Java, and it will go and search Maven Central. And there we go. It's found the Mongo Java driver. So I click finish on there to bring that down. And then I need to provide it with a connection string, which I actually have here on my other screen, which I'm just going to copy and paste. And there we go, right? I have made a connection to my MongoDB database, and I'm now testing that connection right here in my application to make sure that connectivity details are correct. And I haven't written a single line of code. This has actually been created before, so that we don't need to do that as the developer of a Mule application. Now, in a moment, what I'm going to be doing is showing you how to create your own connectors. And that is actually where you dive. That's where your Java development experience really comes in. So down here, I'm still selected here, the find documents. I need to do 2 more things to configure for this particular use case. Of course, I want a list of customers, and this is pre-populated with a list of customers, list of documents, list of collections, sorry, from the MongoDB database. So I select customers and the fields that I want. Now I have this on my other screen. I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to provide the list of fields that I want. And there we have it, right? This is all that's necessary in order to create a connection to a MongoDB database and to retrieve from it a list of customers and these specific fields, okay? But there's more that I need to do. The format of the data that comes back from this MongoDB is not in the right format for my API specification. So what I need to do is I need to transform this data. I use a transform message component like so. And when I use the transform message component, what you'll see here is that there are these 3 panels. There's the left-hand side, which is the input, then we have the output, and then we have a script here. On the left-hand side, you can see that it's pre-populated with the data structure of the data that comes back from our MongoDB database. It's got ID, underscore ID, username, name, address, date of birth, email, accounts, and so on. But that's not the right data structure. You know, my API specification wants a different data structure. So here on the output side, I need to define the metadata that represents that data structure. So this is going to be, I'm just going to create a customer's data type, and I'm going to specify that it's JSON, and I'm going to do it from an example, and I can load up exactly the same example that I used earlier to create the API specification. What this does is it allows, it provides a data structure that I can use for mapping. I can map data from the left-hand side here to the right-hand side here. So I can map from the data structure that is provided by the Mongo database, and I can map directly to the data structure that I actually really want. So username goes to login name, name goes to full name, address goes to location, date of birth goes to date of birth, email goes to email, and then we go down here, tier goes to tier, and then what's the final one? Benefit goes to benefit. There we have it, right? Now, what you will have seen here on the right-hand side is this script being constructed. This is a data weave script. Data weave is a functional programming language that we've created that is specifically optimized for the purpose of transforming data. It is a functional programming language, and it works like this. It has an input, which is the payload. Okay, so the payload is whatever data comes back from our query to this database here, the Mongo database. It then uses the mapping function. Okay, uses the mapping function and applies this lambda to every single element in the array it brings back from the database. And as you can see here, this was actually auto-generated, but typically what you would do is you'd actually code this script by hand if you wanted to do sophisticated transformations. And of course, one exciting thing about Data Weave is it's a functional programming language. It means you can do cool things like currying. It's a really powerful and highly optimized way of producing transformations. So that's it. That's actually the minimum implementation of an API. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to deploy it locally into my local environment, which is on my laptop here, into the embedded Mule runtime that I have running inside Arypoint Studio. And what it's doing now is it's packaging up the application as a jar file. It's launching the JVM. It'll do that in a moment. Then it will launch the Mule container, the Mule runtime. Then it will deploy the application into the Mule runtime. And what you'll see here is I'm going to bring up Postman, and I'm going to add in a URL. So I'm going to do a GET request to localhost, and I already have it in my dropdown. It's going to be localhost 8081, which is the port that's been configured, /API/customers. So once this application is deployed, what I will do is I'll click send, and we'll see a list of responses coming back from our application that are actually in the correct format that we want. So you can see it's initializing the application down here in the console, and in a moment we'll get reassurance that the application has deployed successfully. So let's have a look. We just need to wait for a few moments and then it will be deployed. Okay, there we go. Deployed. If I hit send, it will now make a request and retrieve that data from the Mongo database. And there we go. That's what it's done. So it's gone to our local application. The local application has then connected to MongoDB. It's retrieved the data I've requested from MongoDB and transformed it into the format that I provided with. And there we go. Full name, login name, location, date of birth. Fantastic. So we know the application works. This is great news. Well, what do we do next? Well, this is the development phase over. What do we do next? Well, the next thing we do is we actually go and deploy it into the cloud. So we go back up here. We can do this directly from within Arypoint Studio. So deploy to Cloud Hub. Okay. And of course, Cloud Hub is our iPaaS provisioned cloud provider into which you can deploy applications. I'm going to talk a little bit about deployment options in a moment. But what we can do here is, here's my application. I'm going to provide it with, say, 1 vCore of memory. I've given it a unique name, and then all I need to do is hit the deploy button. Okay. So what is it doing now? Well, behind the scenes, it's packaging up the application as a jar file again, and then it's uploading to our SaaS provider, our iPaaS provider. So it's uploading to Cloud Hub. Now, Cloud Hub behind the scenes is based upon AWS technology. So what's actually happening here once this gets uploaded is it creates a Cloud Hub worker, which is an EC2 instance from an Amazon machine image. It puts in there an operating system, a JVM, the Mule runtime, and the Mule application. All of this happens behind the scenes by a click of a button. Now, this is Cloud Hub is one of multiple deployment options that are available, which I'll have a look at in a moment. So it's going to take a few moments for it to actually upload the jar file to the web, depending again on your internet speed. My internet's being consumed by this video feed, so it's taking a little bit longer than it would normally take. But what it does is it will register a domain name. It'll be, there we go, it's deploying already, and we can actually open up in a browser, and I've got this on my other screen, and we can view the application deploying. This has logged me into my Anypoint platform, and it's gone directly to Runtime Manager, where I can now see, here's my application, okay, and it is now deploying. And what I can do is I can go over here to the right-hand side, and this is my domain name. It's actually created. So it's customers-API-demo -2nd of December US-E2. So it's deployed into the East 2 AWS region .cloudhub.io. And I can just take this URL and I can go back to my browser, okay, and I can go to API/customers, and when my application is deployed, and it'll take a few moments for it to deploy, I'll be able to see this working. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send this to you in the chat window, so when the application is actually up and running, you can actually go and have a look for yourself. It's going to take a few moments for that to happen. So we're going to come back and we're going to have a look at that in a moment. So what we've done here is we have gone through the entire software development lifecycle. Okay, I've created an API specification using RAML. It doesn't have to be RAML, could use Swagger if I wanted to. I've published that to Exchange and then brought that API specification down into Studio, which is an IDE based upon Eclipse. I've built out a specification. I've connected to a MongoDB database and transformed the data that comes back from that, and I've deployed it into the cloud. That is the entire RESTful API development lifecycle in a nutshell. And what you'll learn on the training course that I'm going to provide you free access to at the end of this session is how to do this in much, much more detail. Okay, much more detail. So more on that later. So what I did was I deployed directly from Studio directly into the cloud. But typically what you would do is you'd employ the use of a CI/CD pipeline. So you check your code into a code repository, and then that will kick off an entire process. And then what the good news here is that whatever you currently understand and know about CI/CD pipelines, the technology that you use, the way in which it's structured within your organization, it uses exactly the same structure. So again, another example of how the knowledge that you already have really does give you a step up when it comes to working with Mule technologies. And of course, there are multiple deployment locations. Okay, I've deployed to Cloud Hub today because, of course, that's the easiest option that's available for me. It's an iPaaS provisioned option, but also you can deploy typically onto customer managed environments that could be on premise or in the customer's own cloud. So for example, it's typical for customers to deploy into something we call Runtime Fabric, which is an appliance based upon Kubernetes. So you can deploy your Mule application into Kubernetes on your own premises or EKS or AKS as well. So these options are available. Also as well, you can deploy as your Mule applications into a standalone Mule application too. So this is how we build Mule applications. And I spoke a little bit earlier about connectors. So what are connectors actually? Well, connectors are all about connecting your Mule application to external systems. Okay, they're about it is a reusable library of code that encapsulates connectivity to other systems. So what we used was a connector that connects to MongoDB. That's already available and out of the box and available in the system. But there are lots of connectors that are created for other systems, for different database systems, for file systems, for cloud services, for AWS 3, for example. Okay, many of these connectors have already been created. As you can see on the screen here, this is a small snapshot of the connectors that are available already out of the box. These are created by MuleSoft, by partners, but also by a vibrant connector community as well. And those connectors are built in Java using the connector SDK that we provide. And this is what I'm going to show you a little bit about how to do in a moment. So the custom connector SDK is an annotation-based Java framework, which is designed specifically for building MuleSoft connectors. The connector framework generates from the classes that you write a GUI that allows the MuleSoft developer to easily configure the connector's connectivity requirements and the specific the specific configurations for that use case. And of course, this is a great opportunity to contribute to the ever-growing MuleSoft community connector, which contains a lot of, which is populated by a lot of people who are working, a lot of Java developers, a lot of MuleSoft developers who are building in lots and lots of connectors. And there are lots of connectors still left out there for you to build. Okay, so now let's have a look at how to actually code a custom connector in Java. So one of my favorite AWS services is the AWS Poly service. If you're not familiar with that, what it does is it converts text to voice. So what you do is you provide it with a string of text and it generates a sound file of those words spoken from a choice of different languages and different services. So let's have a bit of fun. Let's create a connector that connects to that AWS service, and let's use that in a MuleSoft application. So I'm just going to show you, first of all, on the screen, some screenshots. Okay, so here we go. This is how we code it. So we start off by creating a connector provider class. A connector provider class provides the basic connectivity requirements for the connector. So when you're connecting to an AWS service, what you need to do is you need to provide the AWS access key and the AWS access secret key. So you're providing a placeholders for this. As well, in this case, you need to provide the AWS region. So I've mapped here the AWS Poly connection provider class to what you actually see on the screen when the MuleSoft developer configures that connector. So as you can see, we have the AWS key is placed here. The developer will provide the AWS key. We have the AWS secret key is also provided here, along with the opportunity to provide the AWS region. So this is the basic connectivity requirements. Next, what you need to provide is the actual use case specific configuration. So that's going to be, for example, the text, right? So you need to provide the text, and this is done through the AWS Poly operations class. This implements the actual logic necessary in order to convert, or in order to connect to the AWS Poly service and to transform that text. So as you can see here, I've mapped the class. We have the connection, so the AWS Poly connection is specified here. As you can see, so the class that we created in the previous slide, that's created right here, referenced here. Then we need to pass in the text that we want to convert into words, and of course the language provider and the voice provider as well. So as you can see here, I'm choosing US English. And in a moment, you'll see when that thing pops down, you can see Joanna. Joanna is the name of the person who's going to read out my text. Okay, so this is super exciting, right? You can choose different languages and different people, different voices. And then once this is all created, the project is packaged up. It is installed into your into a Maven repository, and it can be brought down as a dependency into your applications. It's a matter of specifying the Maven coordinates of the connector, and it becomes available within Studio. And Studio will generate all of these GUIs. Okay, you don't need to create those as a developer. You just create the classes, and from those classes, it will generate those really highly productive and highly useful interfaces. And here we go. This is an example of how to use the connector. Okay, and I've actually created a fully functioning working version of this just for you for fun. If you have a camera with you on your phone, you can take a picture of this this QR code, but also as well, what I can do is I can provide you in the chat window a link, and it has a very special message for you encoded in there. So the link is now in the chat window. So if you go to that link, it will read out a nice message to you. It works best on Chrome browser. So just want to show you that. Also as well, if you're interested in looking at the actual code in more detail, let me provide you also as well with the repository details. So I'm going to provide you as well in the chat window with a link to the actual repository that contains all of the code. And as you can see, if you look in the repository, you'll see that it contains a lot more code than just the classes I showed you. So there's a lot of development and fun to be had there. Also as well, if you are interested in learning more about coding custom connectors, there is actually a MuleSoft Meetup this afternoon at 5 p.m. UK time. And I'm going to put in a link also as well to the chat room there. So if you really want to dive in and find out more about how you could use Java to enhance Mule applications, then please do come along this afternoon to our using the Mule for Java SDK to build a connector. They'll dive deep into that, much deeper than I'm able to do today. So we've built ourselves a connector, right? Let's imagine that. So we've built ourselves a lovely connector. We're really proud of our connector. What do we do next with our connector? Well, of course, we can use it within our organizations naturally, and you may have built it for your organization, but you also may want to share it out into the world. And of course, this is where the MuleSoft open source community comes in. And MuleSoft has a vibrant open source community. We have an open source GitHub repository with over 100 projects in there. We support open source in multiple different ways. RAML, for example, which I used earlier to specify the API, that is open source and is out there. We have Advanced REST Client, which is our own version of Postman. That's also out open source and out there. And MuleSoft actually comes from open source. It actually also still maintains an open source version, the Mule Community Edition, which allows you to do all of what we're able to do today. And it is a vibrant community full of Java developers and MuleSoft developers where they come together and build out the MuleSoft ecosystem. All right, so I've spoken a lot already about MuleSoft, Mule applications, how Java plays a role in this, how your knowledge of Java already allows you to get a real boost. And it's absolutely true. I mean, it's not just your knowledge of Java, it's also building applications, software development, applying those principles of software development, such as Dry, KISS, or Yagni. Knowledge of agile development techniques. The use of unit testing is essential, debugging, troubleshooting, applying defensive programming techniques, everything that you already know and use as a Java developer, as a software developer, applies directly to being a MuleSoft developer, to developing MuleSoft applications. And of course, it runs on Java. Okay, your knowledge of Java, your knowledge of multi-threading, concurrency, and your knowledge of functional programming model applies when creating transformation scripts in DataWeave. Arypoint Studio, as we've seen, is a familiar IDE, has a very familiar interface, and provides all of the kind of tools that a developer needs in order to be productive. Mule applications are multi-threaded applications, and debugging those applications is done in a typical way in which you debug Java applications. You can do thread and memory heap dumps, use Visual VM, for example. Code coverage is a really important aspect when developing Mule applications. JMeter, again, is another tool typically used by Java developers, and again, used by Mule developers as well. And of course, the Mule runtime itself is, based on the JVM, so knowledge of JVM optimizations, garbage collection, adopt OpenJDK. All of the things that you already do, you already know, and you already love, apply equally to developing Mule applications. So you already got a massive head start on pretty much everybody else working with Mule technologies. And of course, that's reflected in the demand for MuleSoft professionals with Java skills, and particularly in the UK. And I have some information, particularly about the UK, to share with you, and that's in relation to UK salaries. So salaries for MuleSoft professionals are very competitive and comparable favorably with Java professionals. Now, this information is taken from an independent survey carried out by Mason Frank. You can see at the bottom of the screen there is a link to the survey if you want to go and dive deeper into salaries in other jurisdictions. It contains salaries for the US and throughout Europe. But just, you know, as we're here at the London Java community, let's just talk about UK salaries. As you can see, it's highly competitive and salaries are very attractive and compare really well with Java salaries. And as a Java professional with many years experience, you are already in a position to go in at the top level, okay, to be able to demand those high level salaries. So how do you get there, right? That's the next question. Well, you've already started by attending this meetup. You've already taken the first step. Okay, you've already taken the first step on the journey. The next thing is to sign up for the free training, which I'm going to show you how to do in a moment. Take the free training, build out some sample APIs, work with the platform. The platform that I've used today is completely free. You can get access to it. You don't even need to provide your credit card details. You can go straight in and use it immediately. Anypoint Studio, completely free. You can download that immediately. Just go to anypoint.mulesoft.com and create yourself an account, download the IDE, and you can start immediately right today. In fact, in order to take the course, you'll need to have these things in place. And then once you've taken the course, once you build out some APIs and you're ready, you'll be ready to take the certification. And we provide you as well, not only the free MuleSoft training, but also a free certification event as well. We want you to become certified MuleSoft professionals. So we're making it as easy as possible, which is why we provide the self-paced online course. It contains around 40 hours worth of content. It is equivalent to a 1-week course, which we deliver, which our instructors deliver. And we tend to charge for that instructor-led course around $5,000, but we're giving you this one course, online self-paced course, absolutely free with no time limits. There are no time limits. Just sign up today and you can work in it at your own pace. We provide you with the opportunity to have some DIY exercises so you can put into practice the things that you learn as you go through the course, real life scenarios. We give you mock exams as well, so you can test your readiness to take the exam, as well as a certificate voucher so that you can take the exam for free. Normally the exam costs around $250. But again, we want you to become MuleSoft developers. We're giving you every opportunity to become skilled up on MuleSoft technologies. So the big question is, how do you get hold of this? Well, this is how you get hold of it. Okay, there's a QR code on the screen. So quick, grab your cameras, take a picture. But I'm also going to send to you as well this link in the chat window. So again, this link goes straight through to the sign up page. Okay, goes straight through to the sign up page. And the sign up page is on training.mulesoft.com. And actually what I can do is I can just very quickly bring up a browser here. I've still got a few more minutes left, so I can bring up training.mulesoft.com. So excuse me, training.mulesoft.com. This is the training website. And from this training website, if you ever lose that link that I've just sent you, you can go straight to this training.mulesoft.com. And from here, you can sign up for the training course. Okay, you can sign up. Once you've signed up for the training course, what you'll need to do is you'll need to book yourself on the developer course. So here are the courses. If you click on the courses, you go to self-pace, and that will filter the list to self-pace. This is the course that you want to sign up with. Whoops, the Anypoint Platform Development Fundamentals. Click through here and you'll be able to sign up. This is the self-paced free course. Register. Click this button. Again, you can see it confirms that it doesn't cost you anything, and this will get you signed up to the 40 hours of development training. Plus, in order to be able to take advantage of the free certification, you'll need to complete the entire course. So once you've completed the entire course at 100%, you will automatically be booked onto the exam. All you'll then need to do is just choose a date when to take the certification. So it's all there, automated for you. You just have to go ahead and take that initial leap. So in the chat window, you'll see the link. Okay. Go ahead, sign up today, won't cost you anything, and you have unlimited time in which to complete the training. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to ask, does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask me about MuleSoft, about Java and Mule, about the training? Does anybody have any questions? I'm having a look in my chat window. Let me just have a look. Has anybody asked any questions? Yeah, so feel free to ask any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Does everybody have this link? I've put it in the chat window. You should be able to get hold of that. All right, fantastic. And of course, you're more than welcome to reach out to me on social media. So our training site is training.mulesoft.com. My blogging site is readlearncode.com. So you can find me there. I often talk about Java and Mule related topics. Find me on LinkedIn as well. So please follow me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions at any point, please do send me a message. I'm perfectly happy to point you in the right direction to find the things that you need. Follow me on Twitter as well. You can also send me a message through Twitter. And also as well, we have a lot of MuleSoft videos, which may be interesting to you as well. Virtual Muleys. So go and search on YouTube for Virtual Muleys and you'll find lots of information there about developing applications using MuleSoft technology. All right. So it just remains to say thank you very much for attending today's session. I just have a feedback form, which I would be appreciated if you could complete. I'm just going to put that in the chat window as well. I know I've probably sent you 100 links already, but there we are. So feedback is very important for me and for us, so we can learn more about what it is that is important to you when it comes to Java development and MuleSoft. All right, thank you very much. And I think this goes back to Dom.
Thanks very much, Alex, and thanks everyone for coming. If anyone needs any of those links afterwards, feel free to get in touch with me or Alex directly, and we'll make sure we get them across to you. And we'll get the video published on YouTube probably early next week. So keep an eye out for that as well. But yeah, any questions or any information you'd like, just let me or Alex know and we'll send it all over. So thank you very much, Alex, and hope everyone has a good afternoon. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Hope to see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.